It's not just work hard, go, 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 concentrate, concentrate, discipline, discipline. No, it's work hard, work hard, work hard, and then be done, be done, be done. Go do your other things, go live your life. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Kate Philpott and this is our self-help chatty book club. I would like you to move, thank you. This is our fourth video so far talking about the book Deep Work. So if you haven't seen the other ones already, you better get on that because we have covered quite a bit of groundwork before getting to this part. We have read up to page 200 and there is, I believe, like 270-ish pages. So by the next video, we're just going to finish the whole fucking book. I definitely found myself with a lot of learnings from this one. Let me refer to my notes. Let me refer to my notes. A wild Kate reading a wild book about getting things done. And jumping straight right in with the insight that Erickson, I don't know, some science dude, says that for a novice, 1 hour of intense concentration seems to be a limit. He says for experts, it's up to 4 hours. Sounds about right. Is that like in one go or in one day? Because when I first read that, I thought that was like in one whole day. And I was like, well, we're all doomed. We're never going to get anything done. We can only get 1 hour. I mean, 1 hour is better than 0 hours. It's 7 more hours in the week and that all adds up. Yada, yada, yada. If you live and breathe your goals and dreams like I feel like I do, it's a little maybe. Maybe 1 hour just feels like, oh, not quite enough, especially if you've got the passion and the drive to keep going. But obviously without the concentration, yeah, it might be tough. But that's okay, because he says for experts, it can be up to 4 hours, which means you can improve this thing over time. Last week we mentioned the topic of shutting it the down at the end of a workday. A little bit more to say on this, because you have to be so incredibly strict on this. Nothing comes into your field of attention that has anything to do with your work. And if you find that it does, you gently guide it to the side and say thank you, but no thank you. And this includes browsing work-related sites, which also brought my brain right back to the whole what if social media is your job thing. It's tough because you might see social media as work, but then in your chill time you might see it as chill. But after reading this particular part in the book, I was like, you know what, it's time for me to set limits in my phone, like time limits on my apps. So I have actually done that. I've set like time limits for an amount of time to spend on certain apps and also bookend kind of times. Like I can't go on these apps between this time and this time. Obviously, if there's an emergency or if I need to message somebody or if blah blah, yes, I can absolutely do that. I can go onto the app, but it will say time limit here, and I'll say, oh yes, thank you for reminding me, and I'll go in and I'll post the thing or I'll message the person and then I'll just go straight out. It's a lot easier to do when you're reminded with this thing like you're not meant to be on this app right now. He also talks this is mad. He also talks about having a shutdown ritual, right? This is going to maximize the probability that you succeed. Now he calls it a shutdown ritual. In The Art of Progressing, I call it an exit strategy, and like an exit strategy for your day. You are exiting the workday. No more, thank you, goodbye. And what you're going to do in this strategy is you're going to review all of the tasks either that you've done for the day and just make sure that they are completely done. Was there anything that's left, kind of any loose ends to tie up? If so, write it down. Have a final look at your inbox, have a final look at your calendar, make sure there's no looming deadlines that you've forgotten about. If so, at least you can kind of work with that before ending your workday. And essentially you're going to use all this information and create a plan for the following day. Because it's just not going to be all that helpful to show up to work or show up to your desk if you're working from home and be like, all right, let's do some work. Yeah, and like you don't really know what the you're even meant to do, what you're meant to be focusing on. At the end of your workday, you've got all those tools because it's also fresh in your mind. Strongly recommend. All of this helps us avoid the whatever effect, which is basically the ability of incomplete tasks to take over that brain, that little brain of yours, and to dominate the absolute ass out of your attention. Tying it all up with a little bow, he says, when you're working, work hard. When you're done, be done. I mean, that sentence explains exactly what productivity is supposed to be. It's not just work hard, go, 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 concentrate, concentrate, discipline, discipline. No, it's work hard, work hard, and then be done, be done, be done. Go do your other things, go live your life. Now, onto this really interesting part about multitaskers. Whew. Listen to this, right? People who multitask all the time can't filter out irrelevancy. They're chronically distracted. They're pretty much mental wrecks. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. It was a harsh truth right there, but it is true. Multitaskers are people who are like, yes, I'm gonna get it all done. Ah, da, 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 da. They are the hungry hippos of getting it all done, right? So you throw anything at that hungry hippo, it's gonna just eat it, and it won't be digested well because they're not gonna. They're just gonna inhale the tasks, inhale the workload, and get it done. But they're not even gonna really focus on each little thing that they're doing or eating. Therefore, the quality of work goes to shit. That brings us back to the very beginning, the difference between deep work and shallow work. Shallow work creates results that are easily replicable. Do you want to spend all your time doing easily replicable things? Or are you worth more than that? That's what I thought. In passing, at one point, he mentions overcoming your desire for distraction. And I thought, oh, desire for distraction. We always think of distractions as bad things, consciously, but maybe on some subconscious level, we actually crave it in a way. Like, you ever sit down to get some shit done and either your phone buzzes and you can't stop thinking about it and you're like, oh, I have to see. Or even just your mind goes, hey, what's the weather like today? Maybe you should check. And you go check your phone, and then suddenly you're on Instagram, and suddenly you're on TikTok, and suddenly you're on Twitter. Suddenly you're looking at porn. It just helps to have a big buttload of self-awareness when it comes to this, because your mind can be completely ravaged by constant distraction. It's not going to benefit you as much as, like, we crave it. Then he introduces this idea to keep a notepad on your desk, right? And on this notepad, you're going to write down the next time that you're allowed to use the internet. And until you arrive at this time, there is absolutely no internet. None. This is like a little exercise for you. It's like, I think he calls it mental calisthenics, because it allows your discipline muscle, because it is a muscle, to strengthen. If you tell yourself, I am not going on the internet for the next 30 minutes. That's not that long a time, but it's enough that it feels like a challenge, and you do kind of have to push yourself to get to that point. Or the number could vary depending on where you're at. It really comes down to having the self-awareness to implement this, because if you don't realize that you are on the internet because you just wanted to check the weather randomly and suddenly you're on TikTok, then yeah, you might have a problem. How are you going to be able to build up that discipline? But that should be like a complete, there is no internet in this time, in this bubble of non-connectivity. And I know what you're thinking, because there's a lot of people whose jobs actually require internet connectivity. Like, you need to be replying to emails, you need to be just doing things online, right? This still works for you, and I need you to get that into your head. If that person doesn't get an email reply within 30 minutes, they're not gonna fucking die. So let's say you reply at 1/2 the hour. Is everything okay? Yeah, it's all gonna be good. And in the meantime, you've managed to get some of your real, like, deep work done. So you get the best of both worlds in that situation. And you've strengthened your discipline muscle in your brain so that you can do this for longer and you don't feel that struggle, that constant. I dropped my lighting remote. Well, I need to change my underwear. As I was saying, you don't get that constant battle between, like, focus, notification, focus, distraction, attention's everywhere. And during that time, you absolutely must keep those internet-free phases completely internet-free. So if there is something, let's say you do genuinely need to check the weather for something, right? You can't just be like, oh, it's fine, I'll just check the weather. Because then the lines become blurry. And you actually are reinforcing in your brain, you know what, it's okay just to do this one thing. Because then the next thing is going to be, oh, well, let's just see if I have an email reply from this person. And then you're going to be on your emails and you're going to see other things. And then it's like, oh, there's an important email in there. I'll just reply really quick. Suddenly there's no like blockage anymore. Suddenly you're not even doing this anymore. So you're either implementing it or you're not. No blurry pussy lines. Another point that's going to help you when you implement this is, you might hate me for suggesting it, and it wasn't my idea, okay? It was in the book, but I do think it's a very helpful idea. Scheduling home internet use as well as work internet use is going to help you a lot. Because if you think about it, let's say during your workday, you are building up the discipline. You're like, I'm not going on the internet for the next 30 minutes, and then you go on it, you do your thing, and then I'm not going on the internet for the next 60 minutes, and then you do that and you do your thing, and so on and so forth. And then 5-6 o'clock comes around, your workday is over. You go home, you're scrolling for hours, you're Googling something, and then you're on Instagram, and then you're on YouTube, and then you're whatever, like you're hopping between all these different apps and websites. You actually might be undoing all this discipline training that you've been building up. And I know that's like, but like I don't want to be on 24/7. And I'm not saying that you do. You absolutely can have internet use in your evenings and your time off, but schedule it. Keep it to like you can go on the hour until 20 past the hour. If it is any time between 20 past the hour and the next hour, you gotta wait. You play around with the times, you get to decide the boundaries, but the fact is that you have boundaries and you can still strengthen the discipline, or at least keep on top of it. Because he says the key isn't to completely avoid the internet or reduce your time on the internet, it's just to build up the ability to actually resist the fucking temptation to go on it every single time that thought comes into your mind, let's go on TikTok. And this builds your overall mental toughness. A quote about deep work. To succeed with deep work, you must rewire your brain to be comfortable resisting distracting stimuli. When I hear rewire your brain, you know what my mind instantly goes to? EFT tapping. I did a whole how-to guide video on TikTok. I actually put it on YouTube Shorts as well, so you would have seen that on here. EFT is literally the way. I mean, yeah, there's other ways, but this is like the way. It's so easy, it's so simple, it works no matter how you say something, it works no matter if you're using two hands or one hand, or it works. I have used it for a few years now. I've seen insane results with it. And the people that I've learned it from, I 100% would trust with my life. So with that said, if you need to rewire your brain to become more comfortable resisting distracting stimuli, maybe we could do an EFT session on that. Maybe you want to be tapping on, it is safe to ignore distractions. It is safe to resist distractions. I don't need to pay attention to every single stimulus that comes my way. I am safe ignoring stimuli. Also, bear in mind, developing the skill of concentration literally allows you more time off. That's why we're doing this. Not so that we can squeeze as much work into our weeks as physically, humanly possible. No, it's so that the work time that we do set, we get good things done. And then we go and we live our best lives. A little tip that he brings up, which I quite often use, maybe too often use, having read this part of the book: give yourself a hard deadline that drastically reduces the amount of time you would normally need to spend on task A. I mentioned that 30-minute timer challenge I did when I was editing a few weeks ago. I wanted to get to a certain point of editing my video within 30 minutes. Normally, it would take me longer to do that amount of editing, so that meant I had to completely focus for that 30 minutes to get it done. Like if I started dossing or daydreaming, I wouldn't be getting that shit done at all, and then it'd be a bit pointless for even setting the target. And he also says, if possible, commit publicly to the deadline, which obviously is what I did. He actually says try this just once a week at first, and then as you build it up, you can add more in your week. Now he brings up this concept called productive meditation, which initially I thought, but he says take a period where you're physically but not mentally occupied. So like you're walking, you're jogging, you're showering, driving even, maybe not me, and focus your attention on a single, well-defined professional problem. You kind of lost me a bit at the end there. That sounds really boring. But I can imagine this is a really good idea for just like focusing on that one thing. If it is a problem for you, great. No offense. It could also be on the flip side trying to come up with ideas for TikToks, YouTube videos, business ideas, etc. And he says if your mind loops on one thought or one way of solving the problem or whatever, gently guide it to the next step. We can easily do that and just kind of stick on that one little thing that seems to be like we had this one really powerful, really good thought, and your brain is like, my work here is done. But it's like, oh, hang on, I still need you, thank you. So then he moves on to talk about memory. This thing blew my mind. He talks about this guy, Daniel. He talks about this guy, Daniel Kilov, and he's a memory champion. This guy, right, he has won awards for his memory. He can memorize a shuffled deck of cards in 5 minutes. And he was not always like this. He actually had ADD. He was really disorganized in high school, and in the beginning claimed to be very forgetful. So anybody can do this. That just shows you. I'm not going to go into the whole strategy that was laid out in the book because it was like pages and pages long, and I started writing it down and then I was like, okay, I am not going to go through all this because it was literally so in depth. But the point of all of this is that is a cognitive ability, right? And all of your cognitive abilities do kind of intermingle. Anyone can train their brain, and it will manifest itself in a better life and more fulfilled dreams because you can actually really focus and create better results for yourself, which leads to the conclusion that improved cognitive abilities can improve your life. And it really just takes practice. So he brings up this idea of the internet Sabbath and also the internet sabbatical. So naturally, the Sabbath is like 1 day a week, you do not go on the internet at all. The internet sabbatical is weeks or even months long where you don't go on the internet. This is like diet culture. What is better, to go fully all in on this like really hardcore diet for like 6 months and then bounce out the other side and probably rebound and probably put on way more weight than you lost anyway? You're not building muscle, you're not building up your fitness because you're so tired all the time, etc., etc. Versus the internet Sabbath, which is more like, say, having a cheat meal at the weekend. Now, obviously, it's the opposite way around. Your internet Sabbath, your Sabbath day, is the day that you don't go online at all. But in the diet example, it's the day that you kind of go a little crazy. The premise is the same, where it's a more structured yet relaxed approach, where you can build the discipline over time, you build the habit over time, and out the other side, you don't feel like you're craving much. You don't feel like you've lost out on certain things. You're actually improving your internet based habits. Whereas on the flip side, if you do an internet sabbatical and you don't go on the internet or on social media for 3 months, let's say, you come out the other side, your habits around the internet are still the same. You just haven't been on it in a while. So you're going to go right back to 12, 13, 14 hours of screen time. And if anything, it's going to be worse because you have had this like massive social media void in your life and you haven't built up any discipline in that time. You just kind of fell out of the habit of using it, but your habits around using it are the same. I'm getting on my knees for this one. Are you ready? There are probably things you're doing or tools you're using that have a slight boost on your mood or a slight impact on your goals or keep you lightly in touch with a friend or two. The example he uses is Facebook. But if you were to see yourself as a completely blank slate with no habits, would you add this into your life? Is it beneficial enough for you to say, yes, I want that in my life? You could say this for any social media platform and then just general things in your life, coffee, skipping the gym, and so on. It's just that now it's a habit, and you may not directly see the benefits of you disciplining yourself enough to break that habit, because those benefits are on the other side of the deep focused work you would be doing without those distractions. Something to definitely have a look at, because everything you do is habit. Everything you do in a day is a habit. You wake up to your alarm. You snooze your alarm. Maybe you snooze your alarm twice. You get up, you brush your teeth. You put your socks on. Like, all of these things, like, you're not actually thinking about it. It's just part of your life now. So if you were to completely wipe the slate clean, what would you actually still add back into your life? What is beneficial enough? What is having enough of an impact on you, on your growth, on your goals, that you would want to keep it in there. Honestly, if you're really, really honest with yourself, probably not a ton of it. So then he says, if you're a knowledge worker, especially one interested in cultivating a deep work habit, you should treat your tool selection with the same level of care as other skilled workers, for example, like farmers, because these tools you use directly impact the quality of your craft. He says knowledge workers, he means like creative entrepreneurs, authors, content creators, YouTubers, course creators, coaches. What are the tools you use or don't use? You may need a whole tool overhaul. Obviously, a farmer's tools is like the JCB and like this rake or that big rake machine. I don't know farmer things well enough, but this is the example he uses, right? He says adopt a tool only if its positive impacts outweigh its negative impacts substantially. Of course, certain tools offer benefits to your professional life. Potentially, none of them are important enough to what really, really matters to you to justify its access to your time and attention. That's the last insight I have up to page 200. Now that, I felt like that was a really juicy one. Again, this book is growing on me. I was a little harsh at the beginning. If you enjoyed this video, it does me a huge favor if you subscribe, like the video, and even share a little screenshot on your Instagram story. I would love that. I'll even pose for it. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are and what insights you are going to take forward with you. Definitely go ahead and watch this one next because we actually talk all about improving the deep work skill and creating a ritual around that. Super helpful. So other than that, I will see you next week. Bye. If you live and breathe. People who multitask all the time can't filler. Excuse me. Hey, welcome back to my channel.